Ed here with a Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick update on my experience with the brand new Sony SEl1000 to 400 millimeter lens that you're looking at right here. This, of course, is a full frame, other known as FE lens. It is part of the G Master lineup of glass that Sony offers. You can see that signified by the orange G right here, as opposed to the black G, which is just the G series that Sony has had for years. And it makes sense. It's part of the Alpha branding. Alpha is orange. So at any rate, not a prime piece of glass, but boy, is this thing a beast. And I don't just mean in terms of size. You can see when it's fully zoomed out from its 100 start point to 400 millimeters, it literally just about goes out of frame. That's, of course, because of its ginormous lens hood. But in my experience so far with this lens, this is with the A7R Mark II, by the way. I mean, with the A9, it would be even more beastastic. Everything has been flawless. I really have no complaints. It is very quick to focus. Video and still quality both are excellent throughout the range, which is surprising. But I don't think that this lens could have been part of the G Master lineup if it wasn't capable of exactly that. Some other things I want to point out that I didn't in the unboxing. They have a control right here. You can see one of the rings along the assembly of the lens body is a control for how smooth or tight you want that zoom to be. So you just noticed when I actually did my extension of the lens to the 400 mark, it was tight. If I go to smooth, it's going to be the complete opposite. We're going to be able to just bring it right, back and forth without any hesitation whatsoever. So something I wanted to point out on the other side, besides all of the focus lock points that you have, I mentioned the autofocus, manual focus switch, nothing new there. And of course the focus distance, full versus infinite, whether or not you're dealing with something more macro, again, adjusting to exactly what you're trying to frame, being that this is a telephoto lens. And I may pick up the 2X converter. It's possible. I mean, at $550, if the degradation of quality isn't too much, that would be an amazing addition. One person asked, how would the G Master f2.8 70 to 100 compare to this with the 2x telephoto converter? And I mean, it's just going to end up being more expensive. So I don't really see the benefit, especially when the aperture will end up being roughly the same. Yes, you lose a stop with the converter, with the 2x converter. So adding that to this lens, it's going to get even slower. But I just don't see the utility. Of course, it's a matter of personal preference. But I would rather have this lens with its range than the 70 to 200. That's just my personal opinion. Now, optical steady shot, I wanted to address. This manual control, of course, can be used. If your in-body stabilization is off, then it'll default to whether or not you have this on or off. But if your in-body stabilization is on, then the switch is a lot less relevant. And last but not least, mode 1 and 2, something I did not address in my unboxing too heavily. Mode 1 for traditional shooting. Mode 2 basically smooths out any panning that you might want to do with this lens while shooting. So in one of my tests, I'm in mode 1. In the other, I'm in mode 2. I think it was the first test I put up. Even though I was panning, I was in mode 1 because I wanted to really get the most out of the lens. I, in theory, should have also turned off stabilization since I was on a tripod. But it was a video tripod and I was panning, so stabilization was still, in my opinion, relevant. In my second clip, where I was really doing a lot of pan and tilt action, mode 2 was engaged, so you should see a difference in terms of how the lens performed between those two. Another thing I wanted to point out, which is nice that Sony has done, is the removable collar mount. So you can see I've got my quick release mount on right now for my video tripod, and basically right here we have a control to loosen or tighten that clockwise loosens, counterclockwise, clockwise tightens, counterclockwise loosens, and you just hit this button right here, and you can remove that. So you don't have to always, you can keep the collar on, and this is actually something that Nikon was first to do, not Sony, but good to see Sony, of course, bringing this to this lens. So I can leave the collar on, leave this in my bag separately, and then when I want to actually have the mount for the collar, I've got it. So it's not a necessity. It's just good, another modular piece of kit for this lens. And the lens hood so far I'm very happy with. I mean, I know that sounds like not an irrelevant critique, but something that certainly doesn't need to be on anybody's to-do list in terms of getting things right. But the lens hood matches the form, the footprint properly, and does a good job of protecting the lens. And so far, everything I've shot with this has just come out really well. Video, again, stellar, stills, sharp. They come out looking like I'm shooting with a prime piece of glass, and that's one of the reasons, it's got me wondering, do I really need the 70-200, which is not in frame as I look up at the video camera. Let's see if I can squeeze both of these in here. Do I really need the 70-200 anymore? And it's a good question, because as good a piece of glass as this was, constant f4 aperture, and having most of basically all of the same functionality on body in terms of mode 1 and 2, the steady shot, and of course the focal range, and whether or not you want it to be automatic or manual, it just doesn't compare to the reach. So while I really do love this lens, meaning the old 70-200, and I didn't need to go up to the G Master, this kind of does take the cake. It's if you enjoy telephoto, which I do, and we're waiting for this, you're not going to be disappointed. That's the bottom line. So far, I've seen nothing to complain about. And size-wise, it's still smaller than the competition. Mounted with the A7R Mark II, of course, even smaller than the competition because they don't have anything in this form factor. And if you're concerned about pricing, I've seen some people complain about the price of this lens. You're talking about, several $100s more for the Sony. Sony's a brand new piece of glass, and in terms of performance, at least from what I've seen so far, the reviews have been stellar, and it's obvious why. The images are stellar, the video stellar. So when you have such a sharp piece of glass and it's priced along with the competition, but actually is now native for the best bodies in the business, which Sony's been making, there's no more of this, Sony's a one-trick pony knocking out bodies but no lenses. Their glass lineup has expanded so heavily in the last 2 years, especially the past year with all of the G Master glass that's come out in order to really woo professional photographers to coming across to the product, to their product lineup, to their DI lineup. This is just another step. That's why it was launched alongside the A9. Sports photographers, anyone interested in telephoto, has that autofocus to match, with now a lens that really gives them the full breadth of what they may need. And for those of you wondering, my experience of this lens with the A6500 has been also fantastic. Now, granted, the weight distribution, like I mentioned in the unboxing, it's a little ridiculous on the A6500 because the A6500 is a baby compared to this lens. I mean, even the A7R Mark II and A9 are small with this lens on body, but the extra reach, being able to get 600 millimeters on the A6500 still with in-body stabilization, 4K video, it's kind of a dream come true, which is why this lens to me was not even a question as long as the performance was there, which it has been. Go ahead and check out my video samples that I've posted so far. I think you'll agree it's a very solid piece of glass, and the fact that it has so many bodies that it can work with natively now for different price points, I think makes it even more attractive. So there's a lot to like here with the brand new SEl100400 to 400 millimeter lens. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.